I gave your son my kidney, and now you're firing me? Before we continue, tell me in the comments where you're watching from, and don't forget to subscribe for more emotional stories like this one. The words left Mr. Harrison speechless. His jaw tightened, his blue-grey eyes flickering with disbelief as he looked at the young woman standing in front of him. Emma Blake, his maid of 3 years. She stood there trembling, still pale from the surgery, her hospital bracelet barely removed that morning. The Harrisons' mansion in Fairfield, Connecticut, gleamed with marble floors and polished glass, but the air inside was heavy with guilt and confusion. Just a week ago, their 18-year-old son, Noah, had been dying, kidney failure, stage 5. Doctors had said the chances of finding a match were slim. Then, in an act that no one expected, Emma had stepped forward. A maid, quiet, kind, often invisible, had matched perfectly. She didn't hesitate. She offered her kidney to save Noah's life. But now, barely a week after the transplant, she was being told to pack her things. "Mr. Harrison, please," Emma's voice cracked. "I didn't do this for money or attention. I just wanted Noah to live." Mrs. Harrison, elegant in her silk robe, avoided Emma's eyes. "It's not about that," she said quietly. "It's complicated. Complicated." That word echoed in Emma's chest like a cold wind. She had given a part of herself, literally, to this family, and now they couldn't even look her in the eye. Noah appeared at the top of the staircase, his face still thin and pale, but full of warmth when he saw her. "Emma," he called softly, "what's going on?" "Nothing you need to worry about, sweetheart," his mother said quickly, forcing a smile. Emma's eyes met Noah's, and for a brief second, everything else disappeared. The hospital memories came flooding back, his trembling hand clutching hers before surgery, the whispered thank you when he woke up. He had promised he'd never forget what she did. But something had shifted. The family's tone toward her had changed overnight. The doctor's words from the hospital replayed in her mind. "It's rare to find such a compatible match, especially between unrelated individuals." Unrelated. Emma had brushed it off then. But now, as Mrs. Harrison kept glancing nervously at her husband, she knew something was being hidden. "Emma," Mr. Harrison finally said, clearing his throat, "you've done something extraordinary, but for the sake of everyone involved, it's best you no longer work here." She stared at him, her heart pounding. "Is this because of the DNA results?" Both Harrisons froze. "The what?" Noah asked, confused. Emma's voice shook. "The hospital ran full genetic screening to make sure we were a safe match. They said they'd share the DNA compatibility report with both families, but I never got mine." Mr. Harrison's expression hardened. "That's none of your concern." Her eyes filled with tears. "I gave you my kidney. Don't I deserve to know what they found?" Silence. The only sound was the ticking of the antique clock in the corner. Mrs. Harrison turned away, hiding her trembling hands. Noah stepped closer. "Dad, what is she talking about?" "Enough!" Mr. Harrison's voice thundered, the walls almost shaking. "Emma, leave before you make things worse." Emma flinched, tears spilling down her cheeks. She turned toward the door, clutching her coat, her chest aching, not from the surgery but from betrayal. Noah ran after her, catching her on the porch as the cold October wind hit her face. "Emma, wait, please. Tell me what's going on." She looked at him, her lips trembling. "Noah, I think the DNA results showed something your parents didn't want you to know." He frowned, confused and scared. "Like what?" Her voice dropped to a whisper. That may be. We're not strangers after all. And in that moment, the wind howled through the golden trees, carrying away the last traces of the life Emma thought she knew. But deep down, she knew the truth was about to break everything apart. Would you like me to continue with the next part? Her voice dropped to a whisper. That may be. We're not strangers after all. And in that moment, the wind howled through the golden trees, carrying away the last traces of the life Emma thought she knew. For a long moment, Noah just stared at her, his pale face caught between confusion and disbelief. What do you mean, we're not strangers? He asked. Emma shook her head. I don't know yet, but something's not right. Your parents, they looked terrified when I mentioned the DNA results. Noah's gaze drifted toward the mansion, where the curtains had just shifted, his mother's silhouette watching from behind the glass. They're hiding something, he muttered, his voice barely audible. Promise me, Emma said, gripping his hand. You'll find out what they're not telling us. Noah nodded slowly, his expression hardening. I will. Inside the Harrison mansion, silence pressed against the walls. Mr. Harrison poured himself a drink, his hands trembling slightly. This is going to destroy everything, he whispered. Mrs. Harrison's voice cracked. What were we supposed to do, Daniel? Tell him the truth and watch his whole world fall apart. Daniel slammed the glass on the table. You should have told me back then, before it came to this, before she came into our lives. Tears welled in her eyes. I thought she'd never find us. I thought she was gone forever. Meanwhile, Emma returned to her small apartment near downtown Fairfield, the faint scent of disinfectant still clinging to her clothes. The apartment was modest, peeling paint, second-hand furniture, but it was the only place she could breathe. She sat on her couch, staring at the envelope from Fairfield General Hospital. Her name was written neatly across the front, Emma Blake, confidential genetic record. Her hands shook as she opened it. Inside were pages filled with medical codes and DNA data she barely understood. But one sentence caught her eye. High genetic compatibility indicates probable first-degree biological relationship with patient Noah Harrison. Emma froze. Her breath hitched as the words blurred before her eyes. First-degree relationship. That could only mean one thing. Parent, child, or sibling. The room spun around her. No, she whispered, pressing her hand to her mouth. That can't be. A knock at her door startled her. It was late, nearly midnight. She opened it cautiously and found Noah standing there, shivering in the cold. I had to see you, he said. I confronted them. Emma's heart raced, and... He swallowed hard. They said you're lying, that the hospital made a mistake. Her voice broke. Noah, I saw the report. It says we're related. I don't know how, but Emma, he interrupted, stepping closer. I don't want to believe it either, but my mom, she looked like she was going to break down when I pressed her. She said something about the past and about someone named Grace. Does that name mean anything to you? Emma's blood ran cold. She hadn't heard that name in years. Grace Blake was my mother, she whispered. Noah stared at her, stunned. Your mother? Emma nodded slowly, her mind racing. She worked in a hospital in New Haven before I was born. She never talked about my father. Every time I asked, she'd just say it was a painful story. Noah exhaled shakily. Emma, my parents lived in New Haven back then, around the same time. The truth began to take shape, dark, tangled, impossible. Do you think, she began, her voice trembling, your father could be... No, he said quickly, almost too quickly. He wouldn't. He's not that kind of man. but his words lacked conviction. Across town, Daniel Harrison stood in his study, staring at an old photograph half buried in a drawer. It showed him as a young man in a doctor's coat, his arm around a woman with soft brown eyes and a smile full of warmth. Grace Blake. He whispered her name like a prayer and a curse. "Grace." Mrs. Harrison appeared at the door. "You kept it," she said quietly, her voice heavy with hurt. He turned, his face pale. "I didn't mean for this to happen. I thought she'd moved on." "She did," his wife said bitterly, "but apparently not without leaving something behind." Meanwhile, Noah sat on Emma's couch, trying to make sense of everything. "If this is true," he said, his voice breaking, "if you're my sister—" Emma's chest tightened painfully. "Then everything. What I did for you, what I felt, it's all wrong." They sat in silence, their hearts pounding, the weight of an unbearable truth pressing down on them. But neither of them knew that what they'd uncovered was only the surface, and the real secret was far darker, and you won't believe what happened next. Would you like me to continue with the next part? They sat in silence, their hearts pounding, the weight of an unbearable truth pressing down on them. But neither of them knew that what they'd uncovered was only the surface, and the real secret was far darker. Noah leaned forward, his elbows on his knees, his eyes fixed on the floor. "If this is true, then everything I've ever known about my family is a lie," he whispered. Emma, still clutching the report, felt a strange mixture of dread and defiance. "We can't just accept their silence," she said softly. "We have to know the whole truth." Outside, rain began to fall, soft at first, then steady, as if the sky itself was washing away the lies that had been buried for decades. Noah glanced up at her. "Then we start with the hospital. Maybe someone there remembers your mother, Grace Blake." Emma nodded. "She worked as a nurse at St. Jude's Hospital in New Haven. She left when I was born. Said she wanted a fresh start." The next morning, they drove to New Haven in silence. The autumn leaves swirled across the highway, the world outside calm and beautiful, in cruel contrast to the storm inside their hearts. At the hospital archives, an older woman behind the desk looked up as they entered. "Can I help you?" Emma hesitated. "I'm looking for information about a nurse who used to work here. Grace Blake. Around 19 years ago." The woman frowned thoughtfully. "Grace Blake. Yes, I remember her. Sweet girl. Always smiling, but there was sadness in her eyes. She left suddenly. No notice. People said it had something to do with one of the doctors." Emma's heart skipped. "Do you know which doctor?" The woman's gaze flickered to Noah, then back to Emma. "Dr. Daniel Harrison," she said quietly. Noah's stomach turned. "My father." The woman continued. "There were rumors back then. She was pregnant when she left. People talked, but no one ever knew the truth." Emma felt dizzy. The floor seemed to tilt beneath her. "So it's true," she whispered. "He's my father." But the woman hesitated. "Not so fast, dear. I remember something else. Grace came back to the hospital once, after she gave birth. She looked different, desperate. She was carrying a baby, but she wouldn't say who the father was. She kept asking to see Dr. Harrison, but he refused. Then, one night, both the baby and Grace disappeared." Emma's voice broke. "She disappeared." The woman nodded. "No one saw her again after that." Emma's hands trembled as she gripped the counter. "Do you know what happened to the baby?" The woman shook her head sadly. All I know is that a few days later, Dr. Harrison's wife was seen leaving the maternity ward, carrying an infant. People assumed they had adopted, but no paperwork was ever filed. Noah's heart pounded. Wait, my mother, she said I was premature. She said she couldn't have children. The woman looked at him with pity. Maybe she couldn't, but perhaps someone made sure she'd have one anyway. Emma gasped, her hand covering her mouth. Noah, that means... He turned to her, his voice shaking. It means you're not my sister. For a moment, relief and horror collided in Emma's chest. Then whose child am I? Noah shook his head. If my parents took me from your mother, then maybe you're the real Harrison. Emma. The words hung between them like thunder. Later that night, Emma sat alone in her car outside the mansion, staring at the glowing windows where the Harrisons were having dinner, like nothing had happened. Her heart ached with anger and disbelief. They stole my life, she thought, my mother's life. Suddenly the front door opened. Mrs. Harrison stepped out, her face pale, her shoulders tense. She spotted Emma and froze. Emma got out of the car, the rain soaking through her coat. Why didn't you tell me? She demanded. Why did you let me think I was the maid when I was your husband's daughter? Or worse, your stolen daughter's sister? Mrs. Harrison's lips trembled. You don't understand, Emma. Then make me understand, she shouted, her voice echoing across the driveway. Tears spilled down Mrs. Harrison's cheeks. Because the night your mother left, she didn't take her baby with her. She left her behind. She left you. Emma froze. That's not possible. Mrs. Harrison nodded, her voice breaking. I was the one who found you. I raised you in secret for the first few months before Daniel decided to send you away. He said it was the only way to protect his reputation, so he found a family, the Blakes, and paid them to raise you as their own. Emma's world shattered. The rain blurred everything, her vision, her breath, her sense of self. So all this time, I was living a lie. Mrs. Harrison took a step closer. Emma, please. I loved you, even when I couldn't call you mine. Emma's eyes filled with tears, tears that burned like betrayal and love intertwined. Then why didn't you stop him? Mrs. Harrison whispered. Because I was afraid. And that confession broke Emma more than any truth could have. But what she didn't know was that someone else, someone even closer, had overheard everything. And what he did next changed everything. Would you like me to continue with the next part? But what she didn't know was that someone else, someone even closer, had overheard everything. And what he did next changed everything. From the shadow of the porch, Noah stood frozen. The rain dripped from his hair, but he didn't move. Every word between Emma and his mother hit him like a blade. Stolen baby. Hidden daughter. Paid family. His heart pounded, his breath coming in uneven bursts. She's my sister, he whispered to himself. No, it can't be. He stumbled backward, his mind spinning. Everything. The way his parents had treated Emma, the fear in their eyes, the secrets, it all made sense now. Inside the mansion, Mr. Harrison appeared in the doorway. Noah, what are you doing out there? Noah turned, anger burning behind his eyes. Tell me the truth, Dad, right now. Daniel stiffened. What are you talking about? I know everything, Noah shouted, rain dripping from his trembling hands. About Emma, about Mom finding her, about how you paid people to raise her. Mrs. Harrison gasped. "Noah, please!" But Noah cut her off. "Do you have any idea what that did to her? What it did to me? I've been living in this house built on lies." Daniel's expression shifted from authority to guilt. His shoulders sagged under the weight of secrets carried too long. "It wasn't supposed to be this way," he said quietly. "Your mother and I, we made mistakes. But everything we did was to protect you." "Protect me?" Noah's laugh was bitter. "You stole her life, Dad. You let her grow up thinking she was nothing while you raised me like a prince." Mrs. Harrison sobbed softly. "We thought Grace had abandoned her. We thought Emma was better off." Emma stepped forward, her voice shaking but fierce. "You thought, but you never asked. You never tried to find out what really happened." Daniel rubbed his forehead, his voice cracking. "Because we already knew, Emma. Grace came back for you, but she wasn't alone. She was with a man who wanted money. He threatened to expose everything if I didn't pay him to keep quiet. He said he'd tell the press that I had an affair with a nurse and a secret child." Emma's voice dropped to a whisper. "So you paid him?" "I had to," Daniel said, his voice trembling. "But then Grace disappeared. We thought she'd taken the money and run. And I told myself that sending you away was mercy, that at least you'd have a normal life." Emma's jaw tightened. "You call that mercy?" The silence stretched, broken only by thunder in the distance. Then Noah spoke, his tone suddenly calm. Too calm. "I can't stay here anymore." Mrs. Harrison's voice cracked. "Noah, please." He shook his head. "You both lied to me my entire life. I can't even look at you right now." He turned to Emma. "Come with me." She blinked in shock. "What?" "Let's get away from all this," he said. "I don't care about the money, the name, any of it. You saved my life. You're my family, the only real one I've got." Emma's heart twisted. "Noah, I can't." But before she could finish, headlights appeared at the end of the driveway. A sleek black car rolled to a stop, its engine humming in the rain. A man in his 40s stepped out, dressed in a dark coat, his eyes sharp and cold. Mrs. Harrison gasped. "Oh, my God, it's him!" Emma turned. "Who?" Daniel's face went pale. "Michael Reeves." The man smirked. "Still remember me, Doctor?" Noah frowned. "Who is this?" Daniel's voice was barely a whisper. "He's the man who blackmailed me. Grace's boyfriend." Michael's gaze landed on Emma. "You've grown up well," he said softly. "You look just like your mother." Emma's stomach knotted. "You knew my mother?" "Oh, I knew her very well," he said, stepping closer. "We had plans to leave this place, to raise you far from all of this, but your father here had other ideas." Daniel's voice hardened. "You were never going to raise her. You used Grace to get to me. You wanted my money." Michael shrugged. "Everyone wants something, Daniel. You wanted to protect your name. I wanted what I was owed." Mrs. Harrison clung to Daniel's arm. "What are you doing here?" He smiled darkly. "Collecting the rest of my payment. I kept your secret all these years, but now that the truth's out." He reached into his pocket and pulled out a folded paper. "I think it's time the world learns what really happened at St. Jude's Hospital." Emma's heart pounded. "You're bluffing." Michael looked straight at her. "Am I? Or do you want to read your real birth certificate?" Everyone froze. Emma's voice trembled. "Give it to me." But before she could take a step, Daniel shouted, "Don't!" The tension snapped like lightning. Noah moved between them, his fists clenched. "If there's something in that paper that can tell her the truth, she deserves to see it." Michael smirked. "You sure about that, kid? Because the truth might destroy what little family you have left." Emma's eyes burned with tears. "It already has." And as the thunder cracked overhead, she reached for the paper in his hand. unaware that what was written on it would unravel every piece of her past. But the real shock was still to come. Would you like me to continue with the next part? Emma's eyes burned with tears. It already has. And as the thunder cracked overhead, she reached for the paper in his hand, unaware that what was written on it would unravel every piece of her past. The rain beat down harder as she unfolded the document, her fingers trembling. The paper was worn, its edges yellowed, the ink smudged by time. At the top it read, "State of Connecticut, Certificate of Birth." Her breath caught when she saw the name typed in faded letters. Name, Emma Grace Harrison. Mother, Grace Blake. Father, Daniel Harrison. Her knees buckled. She pressed a hand to her chest, gasping for air. "It's true!" Mrs. Harrison cried out. "No!" Her voice was a whisper of pain. "No, it can't be!" But Daniel didn't deny it. His eyes were wet, his face ashen. "I tried to protect you," he said softly. "From him. From all of it." Michael chuckled darkly. "Protect her? You mean you protected yourself? Grace begged you to acknowledge your daughter, Daniel, but you were too worried about your reputation, so I helped her vanish for a price." Emma's gaze snapped toward him. "You used her!" He tilted his head. "She wasn't perfect, sweetheart. She loved you, yes, but she also made mistakes. When Daniel cut her off, she came to me. She thought I could help her start over, but I only made it worse." His smirk faded. "She wanted to come back for you, but before she could, there was an accident." The air froze. Emma's voice broke. "An accident." Michael hesitated, then looked away. "Her car went off the bridge outside New Haven. She didn't survive. I never told anyone because I knew what it would do to him." Emma felt her world collapse in silence. Her mother, the woman she had loved and missed her entire life, gone. Because of this man. "You killed her," she whispered. "No," he said quickly. "I didn't." But before he could finish, Noah lunged forward, grabbing him by the collar. "You destroyed her family," he shouted, his voice echoing over the rain. Daniel pulled Noah back. "Stop! This won't fix anything." Michael adjusted his coat and smiled coldly. "It's already fixed. I came here to deliver the truth. You all wanted it, didn't you? Now you have it." He turned to leave, but Emma's voice cut through the storm. "You're not leaving." Her tone was sharp, commanding, no longer the voice of a maid, but of a woman reclaiming her power. "You'll go to the police," she said. "You'll tell them everything you did to my mother." Michael's smirk vanished. "You wouldn't dare." "Try me," she said, stepping closer. "You think you can keep using people's pain for money? Not anymore." For a moment, the man's mask slipped. Fear flashed behind his eyes. He looked at Daniel, then at Mrs. Harrison. "You should have destroyed that file when you had the chance," he hissed, before storming off into the rain. The sound of his car fading into the distance left an eerie stillness behind. Emma stood there, soaked and shaking. Noah reached for her hand. "Emma, are you okay?" She looked at him with tear-filled eyes. "No, but at least now I know who I am." Daniel stepped forward slowly. Guilt etched across his face. "I can't ask for forgiveness. I don't deserve it. But please, believe me, I loved your mother, and I've loved you even from afar." Emma stared at him, her heart torn. "Then why didn't you fight for me?" His voice broke. "Because I was weak." For a moment, no one spoke. Then Mrs. Harrison approached Emma. Her mascara had run, her face pale as porcelain. "You have every right to hate us," she said softly. "But I want you to know, I always wished I'd been brave enough to tell you the truth." Emma's eyes softened, but her tone stayed firm. "The truth doesn't fix the past, but maybe it can stop us from living another lie." Noah took her hand gently. "You're not alone anymore, Emma. You never were." The three of them stood in the rain, broken, but bound by truth at last. And then a car engine roared again in the distance. Headlights flashed, brighter this time, closer, speeding toward them. Emma turned just in time to see Michael's car coming straight at them. "Noah!" she screamed. The world exploded in metal and light, and in that instant, everything went dark. "Would you like me to continue with the next part?" Emma turned just in time to see Michael's car coming straight at them. "Noah!" she screamed. The world exploded in metal and light, and in that instant, everything went dark. Silence followed, a silence so heavy it swallowed the rain, the wind, the night itself. Then sirens, voices, the distant sound of someone crying. When Emma opened her eyes, everything was white, the sterile brightness of a hospital room. Her body ached, her throat burned, and the rhythmic beep of a heart monitor pulsed beside her. She turned her head slowly and saw Mrs. Harrison sitting by her bedside, her hands clasped in prayer. When she noticed Emma's eyes open, tears filled her face. "Oh, thank God! Emma, you're awake!" Emma's voice came out as a whisper. "Noah!" Mrs. Harrison swallowed hard. "He's alive. He's in surgery. They said his condition is critical, but he's fighting." Emma closed her eyes, tears slipping down her temples. "What about Michael?" Mrs. Harrison hesitated. "He didn't make it." A storm of conflicting emotions swept through Emma, fear, sorrow, and a strange, painful relief. "And Daniel?" Mrs. Harrison took her hand gently. "Your father's fine. Just some bruises. He hasn't left the waiting room since they brought you in." Emma's breath trembled. "He's my father." The words still felt foreign, almost unreal. "Yes," Mrs. Harrison said softly, "and no matter how badly we handled the truth, that will never change." Hours later, Daniel entered the room. He looked older, the lines on his face deeper, his eyes rimmed with exhaustion. "Emma," he said, his voice breaking as he approached her bed. She looked at him silently for a long time before finally speaking. "You lied to me my entire life, and yet you saved me tonight. I don't know how to feel." He nodded, tears welling. "You don't have to forgive me. Just know that I will spend the rest of my life trying to make it right." Emma's lips trembled. "Then start by being there for Noah. He needs you more than I do." "I will," Daniel said, his voice steady but full of pain. "But I need you too. You're my daughter, Emma, my blood." She turned away, her gaze falling on the window. Outside, dawn was breaking, soft pink light brushing across the horizon. "Blood doesn't erase the years I was nothing to you," she said quietly, "but maybe it's not too late to be something now." A faint knock came at the door. A nurse peeked in. "Dr. Harrison, they're asking for you in recovery. Your son is stable. He's waking up." Emma exhaled shakily, the tension in her chest easing. "Go," she said. "He needs you." Daniel hesitated, then bent down and kissed her forehead gently. "I'm proud of you, Emma. You have her courage, your mother's." When he left, Emma stared at the ceiling, her heart heavy yet strangely light. For the first time, the truth didn't feel like a weapon. It felt like freedom. Hours later, she was wheeled into Noah's room. He lay pale but alive, his chest rising steadily. When his eyes fluttered open and found hers, a small smile crossed his face. "You're okay," he whispered. She nodded, tears glistening. "Because of you. Because of what you did." He tried to speak, but she squeezed his hand. "Don't! Just rest. We both survived. That's enough." Noah's eyes softened. "It's not just survival anymore, Emma. It's a new beginning." She smiled faintly, though her heart ached. A beginning built on truth. Over the next few days, the Harrisons' mansion became a different place. The marble walls still gleamed, but there was warmth in the air, laughter, forgiveness, and long, honest conversations. Daniel stepped down from the hospital board to devote himself to family. Mrs. Harrison started volunteering at the same orphanage that once took Emma in, and Emma, no longer a maid, began nursing training, determined to honor her mother's legacy the right way. One evening, she visited the quiet hill overlooking Fairfield, where the last rays of sunset bathed the grass in gold. She placed a single white lily on a small plaque she'd made herself. Grace Blake. A mother's love never dies. The wind brushed through her hair, gentle and warm, as if her mother's spirit was there beside her. "I forgive you," Emma whispered. "All of you." Behind her, Noah's voice broke the silence. "Ready to go home?" She turned, smiling softly. "For the first time in my life, I actually have one." They walked down the hill together, side by side, no longer bound by lies, but by truth, sacrifice, and the kind of love that endures through every storm. Because in the end, family isn't about where you come from. It's about who stands beside you when the world falls apart. Thank you for watching. Subscribe, turn on the bell, and tell me if you like this story.